Chapter 11. Questions and Answers. We all stared at the newcomer in the cafeteria doorway. I was wondering where he came from. He was most certainly not in the observation room when we teleported onto the Ark, nor was he listed among us when the theatre did roll call. Plus, he was very conspicuous. He was very tall, taller than Alarian by a few inches, making him almost a foot taller than me. His clothing was very simple, just a sort of dark grey jumpsuit. It looked a little like those pre-flight suits I had seen astronauts wear. There was a long zipper going up from the waist and ending at a high collar that covered his neck. The sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, exposing his arms, and he stood with them crossed before him, like a drill sergeant. His limbs were lean and muscular at the same time, bulging underneath his clothing, but not looking ready to burst. Electricity seemed to pulse through them, just beneath the surface of his skin. He stood before us, all straight lines and angles, looking both sturdy and flexible all at once. His hair was brown and swept back, his eyes were narrow, and his irises were as dark as his pupils. His chin was strong, and his ears pointed, hugging the sides of his head. He wasn't ugly, just alien? A bit unsettling to look at, as if he was a curiosity. He smiled softly, not at all ill at ease at the stares he received from us. Finally, one of the other kids asked the question we all had on our minds. "Who are you?" Juliana asked. She was the girl from Brazil. The newcomer turned to her swiftly, the motion as alien as his appearance. "My name is One. I'm responsible for your protection and leading you to our new home," he said in a deep, precise voice. "Isn't One an unimaginative name?" Jillian prodded. One then smiled wide at her, as if he had found the comment amusing. One seemed safe enough. I figured if he meant us any harm, he would have attacked us by now. So I stood up. "Where have you come from, One?" I asked. "Dr. Ghost never said anything about you." One nodded slowly, sympathizing with my lack of knowledge. "I have been here since the Ark was first launched back into space. I was stored in a cryochamber until you were teleported aboard." Stored, I thought. What an odd choice of word. "There's a cryochamber?" Koila asked urgently. "Yes," One replied. "If there was one cryochamber on board, why couldn't you fill the Ark with them? You could have saved thousands of people. Our parents, brothers and sisters," Koila yelled, standing up. The other kids had similar questions, and they bombarded One with thousands at once. I had wondered before, if our oxygen and water were so limited, then why weren't we placed in cryochambers for this journey? That way we'd keep our reserves intact until we got to our destination, and maybe more people could have joined us on board. Right now, everyone else was having the same thought, and One was taking the brunt of our confusion. "Follow me to the theatre," One said, walking out of the cafeteria. "There I will answer your questions." Koila ran after One, and we all got up to follow. One moved fast, despite not looking like it. He was already 50 meters ahead of us when we entered the corridor. We tried to keep up, but when we reached the theatre, he was already standing on the small stage under the screen, waiting for us to take our seats. I sat next to Koila, who looked angry and impatient. He sat on the edge of his seat, watching One. Once we were all seated, One started to speak. "Well, what about these cryochambers?" Koila interrupted. The screen came on, and an image of the Ark appeared. It was a 3D image looking up at the ship at an angle, with the top half closer to the camera. "How old do you think the Ark is?" One asked, ignoring Koila. No one answered. "It is 300 years old," One answered. Some of the kids expressed surprise, oohing and ahhing. "Yes, quite old," One stated. When it attacked the Earth, the Ark was essentially on its last legs, which was why it was so easy to defeat when compared to the Destroyer. What One said made sense. The Destroyer practically gleamed when it arrived on our planet. The Ark definitely showed its age. "The Ark's power core is reaching entropy," One continued. "It will only last another 10 years, based on our limited parameters of your present mission. To answer your previous question, if we had loaded the ship with thousands of cryochambers, the power required would have drained the Ark completely in 2 years, stranding the inhabitants in deep space." We all absorbed this information. Koila pursed his lips to speak, but didn't say anything, as if any questions he still had disappeared. "Rebuilding the Ark for this journey required difficult decisions," One said. "Thousands of scenarios were tested for feasibility. Every possibility was considered." One turned towards the screen, and the image focused on the top pyramid section of the Ark. "When we first gained control of the Ark, the plan was to use the ship to explore our solar system," One said. A thin line appeared on screen at the very top of the Ark. This small section, which we now occupy, was constructed by human engineers. Back then, it was intended as a simple control center and living quarters for the astronauts who would pilot the vessel away from Earth. Once we realized the Ark would have a different purpose when the destroyer arrived, the cargo bays, your living spaces, and other necessities were also added. The image on the screen zoomed in further and one continued. Beneath the cargo bay is the ship's original power plant. The lower half of the vessel is filled with water and oxygen that the Ark took from the Earth on its arrival on the planet. As one explained, it became clearer to me that this ship was not even a very good lifeboat for us. When the destroyer came, we only had 3 years to prepare everything you would need to start a colony and survive, one said. This ship is very large, but we lacked the time to modify it to accommodate thousands of humans. We focused on making it habitable for you, and now its entire function is optimized to keep you alive for as long as possible to find a new home planet. Aren't we recycling some water and oxygen? Jolin asked. Surely if we do that, it will all last longer. Yes, one answered, we are recycling the air and water. However, recycling resources also drains power, a resource we can only use once. I assure you that we have done the best we could, all to ensure that you children can keep the legacy of Earth alive. We all took this in. If any of us had any more questions, we didn't speak up. Now, it's time for you to sleep, one said. Tomorrow, we must begin work. Everyone squirmed in response. Work? I said. Did you think you were just going to be passengers on the Ark, one said. No, you're going to help me maintain this ship. In about 30 minutes, the Ark will power down the lights and heat, save for the living quarters you all saw earlier. Be in your rooms by then, or you will blindly wander the night away in the cold. I looked around the room. I wasn't alone in my surprise. I wasn't expecting like a holiday on this ship, but I thought clearing the pump blockage earlier would be a rarity, rather than a daily occurrence, I guess. This meeting is adjourned, one said. Tomorrow, if you have any more questions, I will answer them. For now, get some rest. In the morning, we will inspect the cargo bays. Thank you for listening to this chapter from Stolen Futures. Please like or comment on this video and subscribe to The Eighth Plot so you don't miss out on the next installment of this book. Goodbye.